seeing this update very soon. Now, in addition to this iOS release, we also got iPadOS 15.4 Beta 1, tvOS 15.4 Beta 1, HomePodOS 15.4 Beta 1, watchOS 8.5 Beta 1, and macOS Monterey 12.3 Beta 1. But in this video, of course, we're talking all about iOS and iPadOS and what's new in the software, along with when to expect the next beta and eventually the final release. All right, so let's start off with the size of this update. So you can see here, it came in over 5 gigabytes on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. Of course, the size will vary depending on your device, but it will be pretty large if you came from 15.3 since we're going back to a beta. So expect a large download for this first beta here. If we go ahead and check out the build number, settings, general, about 15.4, we can see the new build number here is 19E5209H. So a pretty long build number and an H at the end does indicate that we have quite a few betas of 15.4 to go as expected. I would guess that we'd probably see at least 4 betas of 15.4 before we get the final release, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And then as far as the modem firmware, you can see that has also been updated here in this first beta. It's now 1.55.00. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 15.4 Beta 1? And let me just say right off the bat, this is a much more exciting update than iOS 15.3. We're only on the first beta and it's already more exciting than 15.3. So first off, right after installing this update, I noticed we got the hello screen when we came back from, rebooting the device after updating. And then after that, we got a brand new prompt that I have not seen before. And that's because it's new here in iOS 15.4. We now have the option to use Face ID with a mask. We no longer need an Apple Watch to unlock our phone via Face ID while wearing a mask. So this is huge, and you will see this after updating your device for the first time. You'll see this on the setup screen. Of course, you can also set this up later in settings. And if we go ahead into our settings right here, let's go back and then go down to our Face ID and passcode, put in our passcode, and you'll see down here, we have use Face ID with a mask. And not only that, we can also now add glasses. But before we click on that, I just want to read this little section down here. You can see it says Face ID is most accurate when it's set up for a full face recognition only. To use Face ID while wearing a mask, iPhone can recognize the unique features around the eye area to authenticate. You must be looking at your iPhone to use Face ID while wearing a mask. So very interesting there. And then like I said, we do also have the option to add glasses. And when we tap on that, you can see this right here. So it says using Face ID while wearing a mask works best when it's set up to recognize each pair of glasses you wear regularly. Face ID with a mask does not support sunglasses. So it's mainly talking about like reading glasses and just everyday glasses that you wear. So I don't personally wear glasses, so I did not test this out, but I have tested out the Face ID with a mask, and I have to say that it is much better than when we had to unlock our phone with a mask while wearing an Apple Watch. It is very accurate and very fast. I was genuinely impressed with this, and especially for a first beta. I did not expect it to be so fast and so accurate, but it works very well so far, and that's probably only going to improve throughout the beta stages. So I'm very excited for this feature. This is a big feature. I know it's late, but Apple had to perfect it like usual. Now, also in 15.4, we have 37 new emojis. So Apple does not usually release new emojis in the first beta, but they changed things up this year with iOS 15, and we got 37 new emoji in the first beta of 15.4. So you can see some of the new ones right there. I will have all of the new emojis if you want to see every single one of the new ones. I will have that linked down in the description below, but you can see quite a few of the new ones right here. I really love the one where it's pointing at you. I think I can, use that a lot in conversation, along with this one right here, the melting face. You can kind of see them a little bit bigger down here as well. If I go over to this section right here, you can see some of those new ones right there. So I'm a fan of a lot of these emojis, especially the peeking one right there. So always fun. Of course, it's not going to make a huge difference in your day-to-day life, but I always love having new emoji. Now, for those asking about new wallpapers, unfortunately, we do not have any new wallpapers in this update. So if we go to our wallpapers right here, and then go to the stills section, you can see nothing new has been added here in stills, and the same with our dynamic wallpapers and our live wallpapers. Nothing added here with 15.4, at least not in the very first beta.
And in much more apps from what we've seen so far. So hopefully we'll see that very soon in the future. Within settings is a new mail option if you subscribe to iCloud Plus. So if we go to settings, tap on your name at the top and then iCloud. Under iCloud, you'll see iCloud Mail. Tap on iCloud Mail and you'll see it says custom email domain. You can learn more and you can add your own domain. Again, you'll need iCloud Plus, and there was a splash screen the first time I went into this. I wanted to share that with you. So here's the custom email domain splash screen. It says use iCloud Mail to send and receive email with up to 5 custom domains that you already own. Members of your family sharing group can also use your domains. You have only for you and your family. Now, it's a little bit buggy, and you can go into it and try and set it up, but oftentimes it doesn't even open. So you should see this prompt once you open that up and try it, but it is a little bit buggy in the first beta, but it's a new option there. Within settings, there's a new option as well. So in settings, if we go to general, then we go to background app refresh, scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see there's now an option for web. Web is something that isn't in previous versions, such as 15.3. You'll see here, if I scroll to the bottom, there's no web on 15.3 on the left, and there's no icon for web either. So this is something that's new. We're not sure what it is, but they've added it in the beta. So something a little bit new, and thanks to Jack for sending that in. Now, if you're adding a password on a website in Safari, and maybe you don't have an email address, you've just entered the password, it will now prompt you with a new prompt and ask you to enter that and see if you want to save it in your keychain. So you can see here, this is what it looks like. It says, would you like to save this password in your iCloud keychain to use across apps and websites on all your devices? Enter the username for this account to finish saving your password and allow Safari to autofill. Thanks to Ryan for sending this in, and as you can see, this is what it looks like. So you can save it or hit not now. So you'll only get that if you're setting up a new password or maybe logging in and you have a password only set up for that website. Now additionally, 9to5Mac found that within the code, there's a new trade-in tool for scanning cosmetic details with your iPhone camera. So this is something that could be used if you're trading in your iPhone, and you'll see here it says the tool will use the camera to detect cosmetic details of another device. Problem unless I use the share sheet within Photos. Also, there's delays in saving photos. Sometimes when saving from other apps, they just don't show up in the photo app. So something's changing there. So maybe we'll see some updates to Photos in the future, since there's some odd bugs with that. Those are the bugs I've experienced, and many of you say it's fairly stable other than what I've already mentioned. A few people were mentioning issues, or one person in particular was mentioning an issue with Fitness Plus. So if you're using Apple Fitness Plus, they were saying that it was a little bit slow or unresponsive. So again, consider these things when you're wanting to try out a beta. There's definitely some bugs in this first beta. Everything from universal control on the iPad being a little bit buggy seems to work pretty good, but there's definitely some issues here and there. Also, that storage bug seems to be more prominent in this update than any other I've used. When I go into storage, wait for it to load, it seems to take a very long time or just not load at all on my 13 Pro Max. Even on 15.3 it seemed to be fixed, and it's not in this one. So you'll see it just loaded here, but when I looked at it the other day it wouldn't load. System data still has it loaded, and we still don't have the icons on the side. So whatever's going on there, Apple's making a change we're not aware of yet, but I would expect that to be resolved hopefully soon, and I'll be sure to report that in feedback. And if you're using the beta, I would recommend you do too if you have that issue. Other than those bugs, it seems to be pretty good. Now, the experience on my iPad has been fairly steady as well. So on the iPad, it's been pretty good. I haven't had any issues, but battery life is where there's always a concern. So on my iPad, if we go into battery, I haven't had my iPad crash or anything at all. You'll see it was last charged to 100% 39 minutes ago, and I'm still at 100% because of that. So if we go back a day, I used it for 2 hours and 26 minutes, and it had 21 hours and 33 minutes of screen off time. I never use this with the screen off. I'm not streaming music with it or anything, so there's some odd bugs here and there that keep draining battery for no reason. And in that time, with that 2.5 hours, I used about 45% of the battery or so. So this could definitely get better. Again, I'm trying to figure out what's causing this background drain. You'll see Find My is causing some of it. Photos might be, files and things like that, but there's some odd issues going on with battery on the iPad. and there has been for a while, but I think this time around it's a little bit worse, at least for me. As far as the iPhone is concerned, well, let's for me, and in general, it's doing pretty well. As far as overall connectivity, it's actually been really good for me. So my experience when coming from 15.3 to 15.4 beta 1, they did update the modem, and I've had no issues. It seems to connect much faster for me now with this beta. So they changed something there that definitely improved it, at least in my situation on this phone. So I'd love to hear if you're having the same experience as well. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and everything else has been fairly solid, and most of you mentioned the same thing. So it seems to be a pretty decent update, but there are a few issues. I typically find them to be around photos. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 15.4 Beta 2 and then the final release, I don't really think we're going to have Beta 2 this coming week in the beginning of February. I would think it's going to be in the second week. So I'm not sure of that yet. Of course, Apple can change that up, but typically just based off of year over year and previous betas, I would expect the first 2 or 3 betas to be bi-weekly, and then we move to weekly releases. If they do release it this coming week, well, then we can expect it sooner than I thought, but I would expect this beta to be out by the end of February or sometime in mid to late March, depending on how they release the betas. So within the next couple of months, probably leading up to a spring event, usually where they'll release this around that time frame, sometime in late March. So hopefully we'll see that along with a bunch of new products such as iMac and more.